that also was important for me to really cut all the necessary areas of expense that we tend to add out of a lot of the time commodity, because it's easier. You want to delegate. Oh, she's going to do this, he's going to do that. No, no, no. I can do it, not all, but I will do as much as everything I'm capable of doing to the best of my capacity. And I think and hope that's what I managed to do with manifestation.
So today is June 24th, 2022. Who are we speaking with?
We're speaking with Boddhi Satva, that's right, the one and only.
How'd you come up with the name Boddhi Satva?
Yeah, I guess it was given to me the way, in a very spirited way, I would say, but it's it's the uh, identity of a bodhisattva corresponds very much with my kind of personality. I think I also the story behind it is that during the year of my conception, my parents were hosting this gentleman by the name of Bodhisattva Sattva in Central African Republic. And he was, like any monk, Buddhist monk traveling and living from people's offering. And after having been hosted by my parents for I think about 2.5 weeks, if not a little bit more, they helped him find his way to DRC, back in the days known as Zaire. And as he was embarking on the boat to cross the river, Ubongi, he told my dad that he had no financial means to, return gratitude and favor and show him how grateful he was, but left both my parents a gift that hopefully will bless their life. And about 9 months later, I came to life. So when my parents told me the story, I was like, well, let me pay homage to this man. And, since it also matches my personality to what the mission of a bodhisattva is about. And yeah, it made sense for me to take that as my artist name.
I love it. I love it. Let's start at the beginning. Where were you born and where did you grow up?
Born and raised I was born in Bangui, the capital city of Central African Republic, which is the name of the country, Central African Republic, in the heart of Africa. And I was raised in Bria, which is located 600 kilometers away from the capital city in the eastern part of the country. And I left the country when I was 18 to continue studies in Europe. So studies that I ended up not really completing.
We won't tell anybody. That'll be our secret.
African does. They want you to be a doctor, an architect. And I guess, I tried. I did try, but it wasn't for me.
When and how did you realize your musical calling?
Very early on. Super early, as a matter of fact. I just wasn't, again, because of my education, I'm the firstborn of all the grandchildren, so a lot of pressure was, laying on my shoulders. Therefore, it took some time before it really became a thing. But early on, as young as I can remember, I was, which is probably maybe 9 years old or something.
Mm.
Yeah, but at that time, man, play around, have fun, do your little hip hop stuff. It's fine, long as you continue studying, continue going to school, giving us good grades. We're good. We'll let you do your thing. But, when you say, "Hey, that's what I want to do," it's like, "Huh? Hold on, I'm not sure I understood what you just said." So yeah.
Where did it come from? Were your parents musicians, or where did the music inspiration all come from?
And that's the funny part. So my older brothers were really into music, so My older brothers were playing drums, guitar. And my parents listened to a lot of music at home, especially my dad. He was really into his Marvin Gaye, Miles Davis. I mean, you name it. All these classics. We were listening to so many genres of music at home. There was really an amazing array of choices when it came to sound. So I guess it came from that. And my father and my mom loved to dance. So yeah, I guess born in it, even though my parents were not. My mother was an artist. She was creating jewelry. My brothers were artists, and my father was the business guy. So yeah, early on.
So let's get right into it. Tell us about your new album. What is it called?
Manifestation, closing a trilogy that started 20 years ago. It was my first album, Invocation. Then my second album, Transition, and the third one that we just released on June 17th, titled Manifestation. And yeah, it's a body of work of 31 songs, over 40 artists, and a project that closes a pretty amazing, intense, challenging chapter of my life and opening a new one yet to be written.
When you say challenging chapter of your life, explain.
Um, when you decide to do what you love, especially in the artistic world, the artistic realm of things, you are faced with a great luxury, which is doing what you love. But that luxury comes at a price. The price of having to sacrifice a lot. The price of not having a life like any other one, any other may necessarily have. It's almost like running your own business. Well, you are running your. It's not almost. It is running your own business with barely nothing most of the time. Um, it's being challenged in ways that you, even in your, the most um, amazing education you may receive, you may not be prepared to be challenged, and you may not be prepared to face. I'm sorry. So and even more challenging because for the past in the past almost 10 years, when I released Transition, my second album, it was a tribute to my dad that I lost in 2014, and Manifestation, which has just come out the 17th of June, dropped uh, about 5 months after my mother passed away this year. So, big challenges, big life changes. Um, the type of changes that can actually not can, but put a lot of things into perspective. So, you know, um, yeah, without music, I don't think I would, I don't know how I would survive all this, but, so yeah. I don't know if I answered your question, but.
You did, you did, you did, you did. When you make music,
Hmm?
when you make music, what is your intention?
Always to elevate. Always to elevate. My idea of music is that it has to make me feel uplifted, even though, yes, sometimes certain songs may inspire a little bit of mellowness, sadness. You also need that because you must hit sometimes rock bottom in order for you to come, excuse me for that, in order for you to come back up stronger, and I think that yeah, positivity is the main message behind the music. Even if the inspiration initially probably was sad, came from heartbreak, or for any reason that might not necessarily be positive per se, but the outcome has to be positive. And yeah, essentially, that is my intention behind making music. It's yeah, it's essential.
Describe your sound.
My sound, hmm, my sound is African in its essence. It is truly rooted in my multiple cultural heritage from the continent. Because yes, I am, Central African and French, passport wise, identity wise. I was born white. My father was black, I mean mixed race, if you want to be more precise. My mother was white, and so my melanin was never really present, even though I have some odd 15 or 20% whatever of it, as they say, scientifically talking. Um, I had to claim mm, my melanin or my blackness or my whatever you want to call it through my music, and so it's intensely African, but also very rooted in electronic music. So I use the vessel of electronic sounds, specifically originating in house music, deep house precisely, and that sound allowed me to experiment and create an identity that I call an identity and a sound that I call Ancestral Soul, which is also to be incorporated within the afrohouse identity, musical identity. But my sound is eclectic. My sound is a mixture of a lot of different influences, as I just mentioned earlier. When I was growing up, all the sounds that I heard and that I loved, that somehow left a indelible mark in my system. Um, and so, yeah, eclecticism would be eclecticism, but also deeply rooted in my Africanness. I think that would be a way to answer you in a sophisticated but understandable way.
Two-part question. What is Afro House? What is Soulful House?
Afro House is the diminutive or the box within which is placed any sounds made that has an African element or feel, and that is originating from house music, but with a strong presence of Africanness. With the African guitars, drums, or melodies, etc. Um, soulful house music. Um, Soulful house music, a little bit more jazz, a little bit more soul, a little bit more R&B, a little bit more, funk. But it's soulful, the signification is in its name. It's actually, it's more melodic. There's a lot of complex keys, long solos. There's a specific kind of drum programming that goes along with soulful house music, that really can be found in the sounds of the likes of obviously legends like Louis Vega, Sean McCabe, um, who else, man? There's so many amazing producers making that sound. But Afro House, the power and the strength of Afro House comes in with the capacity of that sound to incorporate all of these influences and still stay and remain uniquely African, which is extremely, extremely amazing, and somehow what makes it unique.
Tell us about the album. What's the album about?
The album is a manifestation of my sovereignty. I've found, I think, as you evolve, you become a little older, you gain some experience. Well, sounds a bit blasé, but you've earned a couple of stripes. Your your engine count a couple of miles. The album really is a depiction of my musicality, if I'm just talking simply, it's my musicality, it's some of my experimentation with different sounds such as reggae music, for example, which you can find in the album dancehall, etc. Um, my musical palette and the diversity of of these different colors that I always had in me, that I kind of like gave glimpse of through other projects such as my Ancestral Soul interpretation mixtapes or previous albums. Now you find all of these elements in this album, which was really built um, was the intention to also bring about, as I just mentioned earlier, that strong sense of positivity. And the actual album cover, um, which was done by one of the most amazing photographers in the world, actually originating from Senegal, Mr. Omar Victor Diop, really depicts, the whole idea and philosophy behind, the concept of manifesting, of, coming to um, peace with who you are, accepting that you have flaws, you have also great aspects of your personality. You're just made of all of these different variables that makes you you, and being sovereign is of utmost necessity, and that's what this album is about. It's about sovereignty. It's about clearing my space in the genre as well, reminding people that, hey, you know what? Play yourself. I'm here more than ever, and I'm pushing the sonic creativity and envelope even further than what most may have envisioned, and that's also important, reminding people that I am a leader in this industry, and I intend to remain as such, and a good leader cannot be without teaming up with people who are equally or if not even stronger than him or her. So that's what I did for this album. I teamed up with some of the best in their field, and we created a body of work that hopefully will last the test of time. And I know it sounds a bit cocky, but I guess every time you're a little bit confident, you sound cocky, or might sound cocky to some people. But it's just clearing my space.
Tell us about the process of writing and producing the album.
I wrote the album very much like if I was gonna write single songs. So anybody who's been producing, making albums, know the pressure that comes along with doing that, and it's a bit of a heavy burden. So in my opinion, I wanted to make it light. I wanted to make it fun, even though I was going through some, and it was done during COVID. So you can imagine all of the things that we've all gone through for the past 2 years during this whole COVID situation. There was a lot to be inspired from and of. So it was very, very, very fluid, very, very fluid. There's only 5 songs that I added that was previously released on the album that are there, but everything else I produced in about 7 to 8 months, and then it took me about a month to do the mastering for all the songs. Recording of all the vocals and the collaborations was also very fluid. Like I would make the track, send the demo, and the artist, will be, recording, send me the vocals back. I would send the vocals to my engineer, and I did everything on this album, except when I was obviously collaborating with some other artists, who would contribute with their, musicality and such. But besides the vocals that were not mixed by me, everything is, produced, arranged, and mixed by me. So that also was important for me to really cut all the necessary areas of expense that we tend to add out of a lot of the time commodity, because it's easier. You want to delegate. Oh, she's gonna do this, he's gonna do that. No. I can do it, not all, but I will do as much as everything I'm capable of doing to the best of my capacity. And I think and hope that's what I managed to do with Manifestation.
Is the track sequencing significant?
Very. My good brother from another, Keisha, legend. Keisha helped me, sequence the whole album, because that's another thing, right? There's so many songs you're so involved emotionally with the project that you need somebody. Eventually, at least in my case, I needed somebody external to give me a nice, fresh perspective on all the songs and help me organize them in a way that would be appealing, but also um, stay true to what I'm trying to convey. And so there is a intentional organization and sequencing of the album that is meant for a wider audience. So the way it's sequenced is for anybody, who even people who are not into this kind of sounds, to be um, receiving the music in a format, in a way that is digestible. Even though the music is not necessarily the most easy, because it still is for in some aspects, not necessarily mainstream, but the way it was sequenced, it's like it was sequenced as if it was a mainstream album. Put simply.
And tell us about some of the artists you work with on the album. I know there are many.
Oh well.
There are quite a few. It'll probably take up the whole time for you to talk about everyone.
Well, I
So
mean, yes and no. I mean, I think we can there's Bilal, Raheem Devon, um, uh, you have established artists from the Portuguese scene such as Dino de Santiago, Ella. You have obviously boy Keisha. You have Congolese and other Congolese artists like Freddie Masamba, Spilulu, H Baraka. Man, my boy Boddhi, this when we had award-winning album last year that we did together. Um, some new talents, some amazing artists. One amazing artist from Angola by the name of Preto Show, Ghana's very own Starboy. Man, the list is indeed long, but a lot of, I mean, quite a few established names, but also a couple of new and known or yet to be known artists that debuted. So for some of them, their first releases on this album with me.
describe your production process from concept to finished record. How do you come up with the idea for each song? And then how did walk us through, like, take us through one song of like, this is how I came up with the idea, and then this is how I finished it.
Okay, so if we go with Kilulu, for example, Kilulu with which is the track number 3 on the album, with Spilulu, Keisha, and Ish Baraka. That record came about. There was initially, when I started it, I didn't know who was going to be in it. So I usually start with the drums. That usually is what I'm going to be looking into, creating a drum pattern, and the drum pattern will usually inspire me the melody. With the years now, I tend to see that it can get the lines are a bit blurred, so sometimes the melody can inspire the drums, but most of the time, the drums will be helping me with creating the whole melody around them. So I started like this, just using these different sound synthesizers that has this trumpet kind of feel, and I started to mess around with them, playing them as in the proper African way, with this syncopated, sort of like programming, and then came up with this nice little repetitive vibe that really gave that, I wanted to have that hood feeling, the type of track that you play on one of these dumping sound systems back home, or in your hood, and you have that thing on your face that just like, it's just that expression that truly shows like woof, yeah, you wanna have that feeling. So that was the feeling that I wanted, and then I set that when I started to sort of like put together the arrangement, I was like, oh snap, this is straight up, a collaboration that would match the vibe of Spilulu and Ish Baraka. Ish Baraka is a rapper, singer, MC from Lubumbashi, Democratic Republic of Congo, and Spilulu is an old friend as well, who's also an amazing producer and vocalist. But so yo, Speed, here's a track. I'm working on the album. Do your thing. Add your magic to it. because I made sure that I left enough space for him to be able to add, like if he wanted to add a little bit more drum productions or add a little bit of synths, etc., which is exactly what he did. And then H Baraka laid the vocals, and that was it. I played it. Then Keisha came over to the house, and I played the track for him. So Keisha already was mad at me because we did a previous collaboration, Spinulu, H Baraka and I, about a couple of years ago in 2018, and that track was a banger. And Keisha was like, "Yo, you should have called me on this track." So when he came to the house one day, I played him some of the songs from the album, and I played that track from Kilulu, and he was like, no, 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 I'm on this record. I don't care. I gotta be there. So I sent him the record right on the spot. He came up with the melody that you hear in the song, and then the next day it was done. Well, it was done. He recorded the vocals, sent me the track, and then we started arranging. We took some time. This record took some time to really be put together in a way that would be appealing. And Keisha helped me a lot with the arrangement of this one because I came about this record from the underground perspective, which was obviously not the way to look at it. And Keisha was like, no, 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 look, move my vocals to the beginning, move this there. I was like, okay, and the break here. I was like, so it was for this album, I really opened up my production to other producers to come in and help me create a body of work that is really inclusive as well. So yeah, that's what I can share about, for example, this record. But all of these records have very specific stories.
What surprised you about making this album?
Nothing really surprised me. Everything was just very natural. Well, there's one surprising, but it's more of a gratitude and awe type of reaction, which was when my brother from another, Omar Vitor Diop, was like, look, hey, we did a photo shoot because he was working on his brand new body of work of photos, etc., a new concept that he was putting together. And so he wanted to shoot me as a model, and we did that shooting, and he started working on the art, etc. And I said, look, would you be down to could we use maybe one of these pictures that you took for the album artwork? And he was like, look, say no more. This is your album artwork, and we delivered it in about 2 weeks, and yeah, that was a wow. That was a wow moment. But there was actually, it's not true. There had a couple of wow moments. It was just the energy, the energy around the album was very, there was a different kind of energy about it. But it was also impulsed by the fact that, there was also a lot going on in my personal life. So I would say that yes, in that sense, there was quite a few impressive moments of breakthrough as well, musically, mixing wise, technically talking. Yeah, I had a couple of them, but mostly working on this album while dealing with a few personal stuff was not the easiest thing.
How did you know when the album was done?
Boom. You never know when the album is done. You want to always add more. I technically have, I have 50 songs, huh?
Yeah.
There's about 50 plus songs, but I just.
So the album has 31, but you have 50 songs in total.
Over 50 songs.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Actually, I never said nothing, but you have the scoop. But yeah, I have another album ready, pretty much.
Wow.
Yeah. It's just that for this body of work, I wanted a very specific kind of energy, and yeah. So, but yeah, man, yeah. This I knew it was done when I produced the last record, which is the record called what's this record? Let me look at the name here. Because I have so many records. This album. The one with Polaris Island, Say Something. That was the last. That I added the last touches of this one, Say Something with Spotters, a Kenyan artist, amazing vocals, and really writing skills. And that was it. That was it. What was really taking me some time is because I wanted a specific sound. I wanted the actually, and the only song on the album that I managed to, I kind of like did a bit of a trick because I couldn't achieve the sound, the exact sound that I wanted, was the track Sangra de Exagero with DJ Satellite and Braga Havaiana. So because I couldn't achieve that, I wanted that kick to sound in a bit differently, but I couldn't achieve it for some reason. It just wasn't aligning. So mixing wise, I was like, okay, let me just go kuduro style, keep it dirty, have that grain, that dirty feeling. It's gonna work, and so yeah, I managed to do that. But sometimes yeah, those are the way around. Not being able to achieve not being able to achieve the exact sonic outcome you want. You have to find ways around it and make it work. So
Who are your fans?
yeah. My fans are women and men and humans from all four corners of the world. Um, Educated, um, I'll say curious, very odd and interesting because coming from so many different backgrounds, different ages. I have fans. Well, people who are 70 appreciating my work, and I got little babies asking their parents if they can play Uncle Boddhi's music. Even though they never met me. So, and then in between all that, I've overseen my 18ers and 25ers and 35ers and whatnot. Who enjoy the music. But yeah, I have niches a little bit all over the world. I could say to you right now. So my fans, yeah, man, they are. Uh, yeah, it's a very interesting question. I like that question. It's deep, but I would say they're educated and curious. And yeah, coming from all sorts of backgrounds, and by that I mean even also politically. Very interesting. You have people with so many different beliefs, so many different sexual orientations, or identifying in so many different ways as humans. So it's pretty cool to be able to do that. With the music, thanks to the music, I guess.
Who is someone that doesn't listen to your music who you think should listen to your music? Beyonce, Drake?
They heard my music. I know that. Maybe not. They probably haven't stuck, but I know some of them have. I know some of them have heard my music. And that's an interesting thing that you have. But there's a lot of gatekeeping in that realm. No? There's a lot of gatekeeping. I know that for a fact. But it's okay. I got to work with other legends. When I worked with, when I had the likes of Bilal on my album, I mean, yeah, it would be cool to do Beyonce and all that, but I got Bilal. I mean, what more do
Yeah,
I want? I got Raheem Devon.
yeah.
I worked with freaking Umu Sangare. Like, those are bigger legends in my eyes than Beyonce. And then not taking anything away from Beyonce, Alicia Keys, or any of these people, because they are all equally amazing in their contribution to the art. But to get what accolades and say, hey, I did that. Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, we did that. And so what? It would be dope. But I wasn't gonna answer you that. I actually my mind went there, but then I was like, anyone who hasn't listened to my music yet should listen to it. That's I think is the best answer because there's a lot of preconceived ideas about Boddhi Satva, the artist, where a lot of people say, yeah, I sound too African. As the DJ, I am not enough this, I'm not enough Afro tech, I'm not enough that. Or, if you start playing more like this, then you can start playing more white clubs. And like, the same people who are making these critics are black people who are criticizing me for making something that is too black or too this. I'm like, I try to understand, but I understand the paradigm within which they're speaking and what is dominating their thought process when they're approaching this. But the thing is that I'm not trying to get the cosign of any specific club promoters and so on and so forth. And if people are gonna not let me work or not let me in certain rooms, that's okay. It means that I don't need to be in these rooms. And I always follow what the creator, the universe, put in place for me. So if it's meant to be, it will be. If it's not, it's not. But yeah, anyone who hasn't listened to my music yet should listen to it. At least just for the curiosity of checking something out that's maybe different than what they probably listen to on a usual basis. And be open-minded, because I touch on so many different styles and genres of music.
How would you describe this album to somebody at a dinner party?
It's not a party album. Well, it is, but it's not just a party album. As a matter of fact, it's an album that you listen to. It's an album that you. It's a playlist. It's a playlist. It's a modern way of listening to a project. You don't have to listen to it at once. You can take your time and come back to it whenever you're ready, whenever you want. And there is different moods and vibes that correspond to different expectations the listener might have. But it's a project that you can enjoy at any time, any moment, any place, anywhere, and it's gonna be hitting you in the chest or in the belly. That's exactly where you're gonna be feeling the vibe.
How would you want somebody to describe the album in a tweet?
Yeah. The album I'll take with me on an island alongside some of my favorite things to have if there was nothing else I could keep.
I love that. That's fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah, that's what I would like people to say.
Tell us a story. Tell us about your first DJ gig, and then tell us about your most memorable DJ gig.
My first DJ gig, as in my first DJ gig, as in like not professionally or professionally?
Professionally.
Okay, professionally, I was booked. Professional. Okay, so not my first international gig. So okay, my first DJ gig was in Brussels at a club called at a bar / club / pub called Le Cercle in Brussels, in Le Petit Sablon. And the guy who was managing the club at the time was a childhood friend of my brother, whom had heard me DJ at my brother's 33rd birthday. And I DJ for about 9 hours nonstop that night. And I was DJing with my, I had my big PC laptop and the big tower, like it was such a setup. And he was like, hey, well, let's do Wednesday nights. And I forgot the name of the parties anyway at the time. Week break or something like that. Anyways, so I started DJing there, and we had a lot of fights, a lot of arguments, because already back then I was underground to the core. I didn't want to play no commercial music whatsoever, because again, before being the open-minded artist, musician that I am now, I used to be an extremist when it came to sound and music and how one specific set needed to sound and you know yeah, I was extreme. I was extreme. I was a purist, hardcore. And screw the freaking mainstream. What about the underground? You know what I mean? Yeah, they will sell out. Until I find out that hey, look, this conversation, this shit doesn't pay your bills, bro. It's nice, it's good. You get pumped up by all the guys you admire and you look up to. But what they're not telling you is that as they're pumping you up to keep doing what you're doing, you being broke and they're doing other things, making their money. So wake the hell up. But anyways, it took me the years it took me to get there. But the point being that I lost my job after a couple of months because we just disagreed a lot, and I just didn't like the payment. You would pay me 50 euros, which is about like $60 an hour, 60, 65, $62, whatever, for to play from I would play from I think 9:30 until midnight or 1 a.m. Sometimes 2 a.m. So I was like, it was a good start. It was nice. It was fun. I converted a few people even because that place was known to be very commercial, but I managed to convert a few people, into the sound. Um, and my favorite gig, um, wow, there's a few. There's a few.
Tell us the few. Tell us more than one.
Well, I'll tell you about my. So I was in Mykonos. I just started working with Louis Vega. Flew me to Mykonos. We arrived there, had me stay at his hotel. And no, I wasn't staying at this. Was I? I can't remember. Anyways, I was with them. Then he had this gig. Why is people calling me? Let me just try to mute this sound. Sorry. This is annoying. Sorry about that. He was DJing at this mythical club called Cabo Paradiso. Cabo Paradiso, yeah, man, mythical club. That night it was him, and he had me open up for him. So it was him. Satoshi told me to play that night. So I opened up for them. Then he came on. Then Satoshi came on. Then Quentin Harris arrived. So it was Louis Vega, Satoshi Tomi, Quentin Harris, and yours truly, Boddhi Satva. I'm a newcomer in the game. Now, I'm aware of my gift, I'm aware of my skills, and I know that if I'm here in this specific booth, it's because yes, they consider that this kid is good, but I didn't really touch the decks. I was just at that point, in this new generation now, they don't understand this shit because they'll come and they'll try to really push you and start playing their records. No, when you have legends like that, you need to step back and just learn and just observe and take this moment in because this is a one in a lifetime experience. You have so many worlds coming together at once. It's unbelievable. And you have the chance, the first class position, right? An opportunity to be there and be a witness and also an actor of that moment. So that was a very important moment for me, very defining moment where I was there and I was being able to witness that. And they DJed until 9 a.m. in the morning. Sun rising on freaking amazing island of Mykonos and people going nuts and playing classic records and man, I can't even begin to describe. Then I'll say my latest gig in Rotterdam, Holland was amazing. 2 hours of intensity to a point where, when people were tired, they couldn't stop dancing. And there was, everything was fluid. My record selections to, the delivery of my energy and everything was just making sense. Because not all the time, this is one of the things that people don't always say, not all the time you're doing a great performance. Like, yeah, people come support you, you do your best. Of course, you pay the kind of money you pay to deliver the job. But not always do you actually deliver the job the way you wanted, or not always is the crowd responding the way you would have hoped, etc., etc., etc. So in this particular case, I have to say that it was a very, very unique experience, and it feels good after 2 years without really DJing. And yeah, man, but there's a couple of other gigs that were very pivotal, very important. I mean, my first time DJing at Ministry of Sound in London, the legendary venue Ministry of Sound, with Louis Vega and Anane Vega as well. We DJed there. My first time playing in Japan, in Shibuya, Tokyo. Man, so many moments. First time playing in Nigeria, in Niamey. Man, yeah. Memories, yeah, amazing. I really cherish all these moments.
How did
Very
you
powerful.
discover house music?
Very early, because house music was always, there in the family. My brothers used to listen to new beat and acid house and all these sounds. And you have to remember, Africa even back then, there was already house music being played in the club. Now it was more of a Euro dance kind of vibe, but still, that was the closest to what house music was, in my eyes at the time. And then I discovered deep house with my uncle, my father's youngest brother, who came on vacation to Imbria, the city where I grew up in Central African Republic, and he brought some CDs from London, and one of them was this album by Kevin Yost called "Round About Midnight," and that album changed my whole perspective on what this music was, and opened up new perspectives in my mind and possibilities. The field of possibilities became just limitless almost. Yeah.
What's your least favorite part about being a musician?
Being broke. uh, it's a very challenging life, especially if you're a full-time musician like myself, producer, DJ, etc. It's a choice. It's a choice. It's a very challenging choice that will shape your personality and your and really put in perspective your determination and capacity to potentially keep on or give up. But yeah, being broke when it happens, because you don't have financial literacy neither. A lot of the time we're not educated about it. We don't know how to handle our money. Especially, for example, if you're like one of the new hot thing and you make all this money. Because I've never been a guy that spends my money on some LV or other big brands. I've never been attracted to these brands, but I am attracted to another form of luxury. I like very refined cloth. I like expensive perfumes, very unique scents. I have my own sense of luxury, which is equally as expensive, but it's just not your tacky brands and the most obvious thing that you might go for. And so, not necessarily living beyond my means, because when I started, I was helping feed my family. So a lot of the money that I made back then was going to help the family. It's just that looking back, I give thanks. I'm glad I was able to do that, but at the same time, I never got to save. I didn't got to save up until a certain point where I was able to now really just be on my own and really just put money aside. But I think that COVID really helped us put a lot of these. Unfortunately, because it took COVID to hit us in the face, forced to be like, oh shit, oh man. But at the same time, fortunately, I moved quick enough to create a new set of opportunities and revenue streams that allow me to be good and to keep moving forward and upwards. But yeah, and I would say the fact that as we mentioned earlier, there's a lot of roadblocks. There's a lot of politics. Meritocracy is not the thing anymore. You being good and skilled is not enough. As a matter of fact, it's actually not what you need. You need network, you need skills, and you need a lot of cosign and advocacy, and that has never really been my thing. So I guess you got to pay the price when you're not willing to go a certain route.
How
So
did you pay the bills when you were not a musician before me being a musician?
I was a diamond cutter. I used to cut diamonds. But I also come from a wealthy family. I'm not somebody that can say that I grew up poor. I know what it is to be in poverty because eventually my family lost everything. So we had to survive. But my upbringing was very wealthy. I've lived private jets. And my father was a very respected diamond dealer in my country. My mother was creating jewelry for Yves Saint Laurent, Gianfranco Ferre, Christian Dior. They both came from humble beginnings, but they built together. This is very interesting. It's like they really managed to build together their own, wealth. And for a little part of my livelihood, I was able to experience, these comfortable spaces. And then they lost everything, and having been raised in an environment where I was confronted with poverty every day, a lot of my survival instincts and things that I had acquired through my childhood friends' experiences helped me survive. You know, when we lost everything, my parents lost everything. So for a large part of my early beginnings, my father didn't. My father, when I was in school, he looked after everything. I was getting money every month, da 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 da. Pocket money, I mean. But then when I decided to make music, he removed any help. He was like, "All right, cool, you're a big boy now. You want to do your thing? Cool, do your thing." And that was great. He had prepared me for that because even though my parents, had a lot of money, they always raised me to be responsible and to understand that none of what they had was mine. That I would have to build my own. And so, in that sense, my father was extremely adamant on making sure that I never took a goddamn thing for granted. So much so that even as a kid, he would remind me that none of these stores were mine, which can be a very unsettling as a child, but or as a teenager, I would say. But very important to help you very quickly realize that I need to be an entrepreneur. I need to be making money, my own money, and be independent and create my own space and reality. And yeah, and when I was not doing, when I stopped doing the diamond cutting thing, I became a security agent. I was securing, doing security at clubs. I was bartending. I did a bit of construction as well. I had to do what I had to do. Nothing special, nothing more amazing or incredible than anyone else would have to do in order to make ends meet. But great experiences and things that I'm proud of. Things that I wish I'd done differently with the money, but I have no regrets because it helped my family, and that was my main thing. I want to be making sure that I I show gratitude for everything that my parents have done and sacrificed for us. Because if there's one thing that my parents didn't play with was our education. My sister and I, my younger sister and I, we benefited from an amazing education. And my father and my mother didn't wasted um, any time or any resources uh, in terms of energy and finances to make sure that we had the best education because we were homeschooled. being that we didn't live in the capital city, so my father literally flew 8 teachers for the 8 different, for mathematics, history, French, whatever. He flew them and their families to the city where we lived in, and would have them, they would have their houses, everything. Would be, they had their great salaries, but they would like to teach only me and my sister. Obviously, at a certain point, when we became a little bit older, we started including other kids that was around. Some of my friends my parents put them in school with me, so that obviously I wouldn't be alone, but also they would benefit from the school tutelage that I received, which was because the courses that I would get were all coming from France, right? So I would we were very, very fortunate. So there was no reason for me to be the only child benefiting from that. And my father and my mother made sure that a lot of my childhood friends who were going more on national education, not benefiting from the same level and luxury of knowledge that I was benefiting, would actually benefit from it by coming to class with me. And so it was interesting because the class was in the property. My parents said there's a huge property, and then we we had a classroom in the property, and we'd have like a whole real schedule, like a proper school. Noon we go home, eat, then 2:30 p.m., 3 p.m. back to school until 6.
Wow. What happened to that property? Is it still there?
It was the company's property. It was my father's company, and then when we stopped working with this company, they and being a partner as well. It was on the property is still there, yeah, definitely still there. I doubt very much that the decorative work of my mother still remains, but yeah, man, we lived there. I mean, we had everything. There was up until I think I was 18. I thought I would never leave, and I never wanted to leave. As a matter of fact, me coming to Europe was dreadful. It was very painful. I did not enjoy being here for quite some time.
Why?
Because Africa has always been my place. The freedom that I had there. We would. When I arrived here, I discovered like all this exclusion, all of this hatred. Not that it wasn't existing, but it was different. We had different ways of treating and handling situations. But eventually, you fall into it, and you learn to adapt, and you learn to be a chameleon. And I guess that's also what my métissage is about. Because clearly when you see me, you don't see a black man. I mean, for most people, and yet since I was a kid, it took me until I was 17 and a half, or 17 years old. My father, one time, we were having lunch, and he literally, like, man, he lost it on me. He was like, who the hell do you think you are? Because I had I made racist comments about white people. And I kind of looked down on my mother when I say that. And my father, he slapped me, and he was like, who the hell do you think you are? You're rejecting your own color? This is your mother. And whether you like it or not, your skin is white. And that was very shocking, man, because all this time I did not identify as white. It's very funny, very interesting. And for a long time, I had what I call reverse racism. I didn't like white people for a long time. Very long time. I know it sounds fucked up, but it's the truth. I didn't like people who looked like me, because I felt like they were the oppressors. They came and did a lot of wrong things. Yeah, they might have done some good things, because not everybody white is bad. I was just seeing my mother being one of these amazing women who, didn't have no white savior complex. She came and gave people work and made people rich. That's what both my parents did, because just because your skin color is one way doesn't mean that you are automatically fitting a certain description or cliche that comes with that color. But again, when you're a kid and you're starting to try to understand this, that, and the other different concepts, you got to go through your own phases and researches and soul searching and such. And so when I moved to Europe when I was 18 years old, that was a big slap in the face, a world that I had known during vacation because we were comfortable financially enough to go every month, every year for summer vacation to Europe and travel to South America, whatever. Proper, comfortable and rich African families. We travel abroad, they would come back home. you know, um, and by rich African families, it's important to emphasize the fact that my father was really the one who had succeeded in his business. But my grandfather, being a politician in the opposition party, um, was sponsored by my dad, as a matter of fact, right? Because thankfully, and that's something that I take pride in. Because eventually, towards the end of my father's life, my father accepted to become, the minister of mine and petrol in my country, in Central African Republic. And as fucked up as it sounds, but he died. He died with pretty much nothing in his pocket. So that's a pride, because a lot of people assume that you have to be dirty, you have to be making money, you have to be, and yeah, of course you should be somehow comfortable, but both my grandfather and my dad was barely nothing. So I take pride in that. They were really about the people, for the people, and it cost them their lives. But such is this existence. And learning from that, learning from my dad telling me that just because you lose everything materially doesn't mean that you lost everything. As a matter of fact, you get an opportunity to do things different, to do things better. And yeah, that is one of the knowledge that strengthened me as a man, as a young man, um, who had to start in life and be ready. So yeah, man, the artist life is not easy, but I think that what will save you in anything in life, I think, is your education and your principles and some of these foundation that will help you just when you have moments when you're discouraged. And I remember, I used to, and I had, and I would not ask my dad, but I would look at my father and I would say, where does this man find the energy to still continue? My dad would wake up every morning, 5:30, do his workout, get ready. When I say ready, my brother, neat, tie, boom, shirt on point, always dressed, ready. He would go and grind, there, that. And that became a thing for me where I have to, even during COVID, when I'm home, I'm always clean, always showered, boom, groomed. Thank God I had this basis, this foundation as a reference point for my, existence. Because now I can probably say that I can carry that and bestow this knowledge and give this knowledge and share this knowledge with my nephews and nieces and my future kids eventually when I'm going to have some. Uh, because again, this world we live in is so much. There's so much negligence nowadays. It's like everything is just whatever. No, man, rigor and consistency and understanding that it's okay. For example, as I told you when we were starting, I feel tired. This whole week because we just released the album. It's been very intense. A lot of promo as we're doing now. And then this week, my mind can't process information. I'm tired. Then what do I need to do? Force? No. It's okay to take a moment, relax, because you can't be functioning if you're constantly at 100. It's impossible. You have to pause. So yeah. But anyway, I strayed away from the question. But yeah, man,
No, it was
artist
fine.
life is tough.
The two more questions and we're done. If you were to start all over again, what would you do differently?
Oh man, quite a few things. Um, I would have started building my catalog much earlier, my production catalog. Um, I would have stopped listening to. I would have not listened to a couple of people who gave me advices that felt and sounded right, but truly were an impediment to my progress and slowed me down.
What advice was
Uh,
that? What slowed you down? You don't have to name their names, just tell us what happened.
So far, so far, so far. No, no, I wouldn't. I wouldn't drop nobody's name. It's not my style.
Mm.
But it's more advices. I would say one of them was well, it wasn't so much an advice. It's more a methodology of work that um, was influenced mostly by what others might think and say. Right? That was a very big issue, big mistake. But it's normal because it's a mistake we all do because we want to impress our peers, we want to impress the guys and gals that we look up to, and we want them to give us the and that's amazing, that's great. But then once you have it, what else is there? So and stop trying to get approbation. But you can only afford that luxury once you've received the cosign initially, because that's the thing. Until you enter that door, that room, you can't act like that. You have to be humble. And not saying that you need to stop being humble, but then there's a point where it's like, okay, cool. I've entered, I'm here, I've entered, not because I'm a gimmick of you, but I'm a compliment of you. And I'm humbling, coming, asking for your support, protection, even, and blessing, so that I can also grow. This is what somebody like Louis did for me. Louis Vega just, embraced me, invested money on my first project, and invested in me, and allowed me to, to be seen under a certain light, the light that he shone upon me. And then he was like, all right, now that you're here, do your thing. And I couldn't thank him enough for that, and him or Shalade or anyone else. But for those who gave me these certain guidelines that were or made me feel like I had to get their approbation to move a certain way, to do certain things a certain way. Yeah, if with all the knowledge that I have now, I would do so many things, differently, and I would have invested in Bitcoin when it came about.
Okay.
Woo! Without it affecting anything from the future, because that's the other thing. I mean, yeah. Besides losing my dad and my mom, I wouldn't change nothing.
Last question. What advice would you give to the next generation of producers and DJs?
Man, you can't really reinvent the wheel. Um, you can't reinvent the wheel, but you can't recreate the wheel. Sorry. Humility, and I know some of y'all don't have that shit in anywhere in your system. And the funny thing is that when you're frauding and you're acting as you humble, people like myself or some of us who are in these realms where we are used to be dealing with so many kind of personalities, we will see through your bullshit. So don't think you fake by faking the fun. You might fool some people, but you will not fool everybody. And faking it till you make it works as long as you know how to dose it. And by faking it, it's not about faking, it's more, not everybody needs to know your struggle. Not everybody is willing to even hear about your struggles. So choose carefully who you speak to, what you speak of, and go into your history and fall back to your principles. And if you had no principles, you were not educated or benefited from the kind of education, strict, whatever background. Well, don't use that as an excuse to be an asshole and to not try to learn. Staying a forever student is very important. And I say that because I refuse to be stuck in my ways. Because the man that I was 20 years ago is long gone. I'm still the same guy, but I'm not the same guy. So, wherever you are, whatever you are, just, just remember humility will take you many places. But humility doesn't mean that you should let people shit on your head. But, just know your worth, but understand that even though you believe you should be noticed and you should be known, you should, but nobody's forced to do anything. So don't have too many expectations, but work towards building your dream and realizing that they will come to fruition the moment you stop trying to control the outcome. I don't know if that makes sense, but at least I understood myself when I said it.
Oh, that was perfect. Boddhi Satva, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you. All right,
Okay.
take care. All right, bye-bye.
Peace.
Peace.